In here with Gardening Simplified. Let's talk a little bit more about planting seeds. Today I'm just doing a little bit of potting up, and I'm doing some more seed planting. And what I've got here is a tray with some water in it. And I've just planted a bunch of spinach seeds here. Now this seed cell here, I'll show you one in just a minute. I'm going to set this off in this water. Once I plant these in the same way whenever I up pot, I set it off in some water and let it completely soak and fill itself up. Now I have different trays. Now these trays were 244 trays, and what I've actually done, I've cut the one layer off each side, and that's so they do fit in here. I have some 208 trays here, and they are just right to fit in here. But a lot of these companies that make these trays for different purposes, as far as you might just put this out on your bench and water them and go on like that. You might not want to set them in one of these, but as flimsy as they are, it's to me it's better if it's set in one. And especially whenever I first do them, like I say, I moisten my mix that I use for my seed starter, but after I finish it, I let them get good and soaked in, and then I'll put them in a tray without holes, just like this. Give it time to drain some of that moisture out, and then turn around and put it in one of these trays that has holes, so whenever I water it won't just keep a bunch of water in there and cause problems with it that way. Also, the only time I'll put it back in a tray without holes is if I don't take and watch it close and the seed starter gets dried out. Because if it gets really dried, it gets where it doesn't want to hold water, and it takes a little bit to get it back to where it'll start retain that moisture. So you might end up having to soak it again in that case. But normally if you water it regular, and these are small cells, they're not very deep, but they're perfect for, like, if you want to plant spinach. Now a lot of times I'd seed this directly, but in this situation I'm going to go ahead and plant out individuals, so my spacing's right, I don't waste a bunch of seed, and I won't end up having to go back and spend a lot of time thinning. It takes a little bit longer during the planting stage, but it takes a whole lot less time once you put them out. You know which seeds germinate because that's the ones you're going to plant, and you don't have to worry about if you have real heavy germination and your seeds are close, or vice versa if you have very poor germinations and your plants are far apart. This way you can have them exactly where you need them. Okay, now it's soaked up water. I've got it in its own tray here. It'll stay there until it germinates. The thing, remember, we want to mark our plants so we know when we planted them and what's in there. Now with these particular cells, it's a problem because your normal tag wouldn't fit down in there. So it's as simple as taking some scissors and trim a little bit off, and then this will fit down in here just fine. Now normally I won't put this at the edge because a lot of times it's in the way of the cover. And also, as I've mentioned before, if you use a Sharpie Extreme, it's fade resistant. A lot of people say, what can I use on my tag so that it doesn't fade out? And this will stay in there a whole lot longer. Now all we need to do is put our cover on this, and you can put it on a heat mat or just keep it inside at a temperature and let it go ahead and sprout. Let's go through the process again of preparing to plant seeds. Now what I have a good homemade potting soil that I use, which is peat moss and compost. Now what I've done to this is moistened it real good. I'm just going to take and lay this out on my seed tray here. I don't care if I have a lot of extra. I want to have it covered pretty good. Now when it's dry, sometimes it goes into the cells a little bit easier, but if it doesn't want to pick up moisture, then I've got a bunch of dry mix in there. So this takes a little bit more work, but I like the result a bunch better. So this is the way I tend to do it. Now what I'll do is, I'll just pick this tray up and I'll drop it a couple of times. And then I'm going to take this potting mix, make sure I still have a good amount on top. I've got it down in most of the cells now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack this down in these cells. And this is an easy process, but I want to make sure this is packed in here tight. There's not much, and occasionally I'll get a stick that went through my screen, or that maybe was in my peat moss. I try to use a premium peat moss so it does good. Sometimes it's not really just peat, it's got cocoa coir in it too. Something that's going to hold moisture, because the this compost tends to dry out quick, and we don't want it to dry out real quick. We want it to keep moisture in it. And we'll just go down through this whole thing and push these down. Make sure that they're, like I say, that they're all packed in here tight. And that's one of the things that I stress. It's not like the roots aren't going to go down in through here. Roots are strong. They can force their way down, and they can make extra room. Now I've got this piece of bamboo here, but you can take any kind of stick, and I'll level this back out again. And any little sticks I pull out, that kind of messes up the process if they're in there in the way. And then I'm just going to take and shave off the extra. Now you can see where there might have been some sticks. They tend to pull out the extra, but I want plenty of material there. And now I'm going to go down the same way. I'm just going to go down here and push down each one of these in there even tighter. Like I say, the roots are going to go in. They're not going to have a problem once the seed germinates setting the roots in. In fact, it isn't long with these little trays that the roots want to start going out the bottom and looking for more water, so, and nutrients. We won't keep them here long. When we water these in these small trays, we do use a liquid fertilizer, because there's not enough nutrients in here for them to stay there for very long. So and once we pull this down like this, we've got them set for our seed depth. What I'm going to do is I'll get rid of the extra here. See if I can kind of not make too big a mess, or too big a bigger mess here. It's about time to start cleaning house up here. But now what we'll do is we'll plant some seeds in here. Because I don't like thinning, and like I say, not wasting a bunch of seeds, I'll use one of these little seeders. And I actually, like I say, I'm not ever in any hurry planting seeds. I'll just take and I put one seed in each hole. And What that does is it either comes up or it doesn't, but I don't ever have to thin out my seeds whenever I get ready to put these out. It's a slower process, you know. Now, I'm not a big commercial grower, so I'm not concerned with having to take a bunch of speed. I'm more interested in my seeds being put into place, and I'm more interested in getting the seeds in each individual cell, so whenever I get ready to plant, I've got one plant. I won't have to try to thin these out where I have two cells or two seeds in a cell. And if some don't come up, there's a lot of plants here. I have 2 trays that's over 200 in each one. That's a big garden area. And not that I have to plant them all, but I want to be sure that I have enough for the area I plan to plant, because you never know what's going to happen in the end. Now all the seeds are in here. I'm going to do the same thing basically, pretty much. I'm going to coat this all with some more seed starter. Pick the sticks out as I come across them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pack this down, not real hard. I'm just kind of packing it in there where it's solid against the seed. And then I'm going to take my little tool. Now occasionally, and they'll get little pieces of cocoa core or whatever that is. Occasionally it'll uncover one. All I do is put a little back there, and once I get all these off, all those that were kind of high, I'll just put a little more on top of them. If they keep covering up, I'll push them down just a little bit more. But that way they'll all be covered up. Like I say, occasionally it won't make a good bond to that soil on the end. Now once this is done, I'll do this just like the other one. I'll take and set this over there, let it soak up water, and go ahead and put a label on them so I know what they are, and wait for them to germinate. All right, this one's ready for a cover. What I wanted to tell you was, whenever you plant your seeds, it's just not like throw the seeds in there, water them, and they're going to jump up. You need to be aware that what the germination temperature is of your seeds. Now, if you're planting something like lettuce or spinach, something like this, You don't want to put this on a heat mat to help it germinate unless it's just really cold. Room temperature, it germinates best somewhere around 67, 68 degrees. What I've done here is I've just set it on my shelf by the window over here. It's 69 degrees in here, so it's a perfect temperature. Even if it falls down to say 65 degrees in the evening, then it's still going to be almost perfect temperature for germination. So understand that. Don't think that you need a heat mat for all your plants. Lettuce is the same way. It's pretty much exactly the same germination temperatures for best germination, like I say, somewhere around 67, 68 degrees. So know your plants. Now, Johnny's Seeds, I know in their catalog they have a little section where it starts for each variety of seeds, and it gives you these, and I'm sure that's on their website. They've got a lot of information as far as planting times for seeds that you might put in your last frost date, and it'll tell you how many days before it. So if you're up north or even down south, it'll give you the range of when you might want to start your plants, and it's based on your average last frost date. You know, that could change up or down. All right, I have my heat wave lettuce. I just set out some transplants in the garden yesterday. It take me about 30 days get my lettuce up, roughly about 30 days, get it up and ready to transplant. Now, if you rotate your crops as far as, or I say rotate, if you stagger your crop plantings, like say this is, once I put some in the ground, I go ahead and start some more, so by the time it gets to playing out, the next batch will be ready to go. Now, you don't have to plant 200 cell trays, you know, but enough that you'll have a supply of lettuce to eat. Now, I plant leaf lettuce. I do plant some head lettuce, but most of my varieties are leaf lettuce. That way I get a variety and can just pick them like that. But anyway, there we go on this. It's all easy planting. If you want to see more of these videos, just hit that subscribe, hit that bell button so you'll be notified, and give this a thumbs up. And if you have any comments or questions, just put them down below in the comment section. Happy gardening.